Hello my loves, and I hope you can see this all right. Just going to put it back a little bit, there we go. So welcome back. It is a few days into our 90-day challenge, and of course I want to start it off with a little recap as to where we are, what we're doing, so we can be clear and focused in what we're trying to achieve, okay? And so, as you know, and I've got my new pen, as you know, we are shifting from the old paradigm into a new paradigm altogether, okay? And how we're doing this is we are intentionally embodying a new identity archetype. So at the top of this sort of masculine pyramid structure here, we have our identity. And this is essentially our core energetic makeup that we are bringing into our field, bringing into our body, bringing in through our mind and down into the earth. Okay, so in one of the first sessions, we would have written out how our avatar is, or the archetype that we want to call in. We would have got very specific around thought processes, how that archetype carries themselves, what hobbies they do, what they like, what they don't like, etc. So hopefully you've got a really clear blueprint template of the identity that you are showing up in. And as we know, we are bringing this all the way down into the physical world. And once we know our identity type, which you would have already chosen at this point, then we're making sure that all of the subconscious belief systems that you harbor currently are in alignment with this new identity archetype, okay? Because if they are not in alignment, then you are going to self-sabotage yourself on this journey. And so I'm calling you out, I'm calling myself out. Make sure that you call yourself out when that happens, because a lot of the time it's unconscious programming. So we really want to decondition the mind and build up new neural pathways which are going to reinforce new habits, new thought patterns, and a new sense of identity and a new sense of self. So in the previous videos, we looked a little bit into installing new belief systems that correlate with this identity, okay? We looked at how we can create hypnotic music and put that together with mantras or affirmations of us speaking our identity into reality, okay, and affirming it within. We looked at looking to scan for evidence with our belief systems in our everyday reality, looking for anything that comes up in our sphere of experience and finding evidence, and essentially to support those core belief systems. They were 3 actually that if I remember correctly. And what's great about this is we are learning to train our mind and train our brain to scan for opportunities or scan for any evidence that supports those systems. Because as we know, we all have what's called a negativity bias. No one is, we all are subject to having this negativity bias. It's part of our R complex, the reptilian part of our brain. Essentially, it's there to ensure our survival, but what it does is it can hinder our growth and our ability to see opportunities clearly. And so we might have built up such a strong identity around someone that isn't even able to tap into their full potential because they have clouded their ability to receive insightful information that would hint at potential opportunities. Because as we know, and this is one of my core beliefs as the sovereign leader, is opportunities are everywhere. You just have to be open to receiving them. Okay. So that was my core identity archetype, the sovereign leader. So we've been looking at the subconscious mind, and then also in one of the previous videos, I brought up amygdala hijacking and how our brain can literally take over, hijack our system. It's the same with our nervous system. We can recruit adaptive survival responses that, yes, they do ensure our survival. They are always our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system is always prioritizing our safety, prioritizing our survival, but sometimes that can be prioritizing survival over success, over growth, if growth feels unsafe. So it's our responsibility to be able to make this new identity feel safe in the nervous system, feel safe in the body, feel literally safe in your God, I was thinking on a word and I've just completely blanked it. So yeah, you need to feel safe in your body, because I think some of us have been there, but I'd be really interested just to learn if anyone else has experienced anything similar to this, which is when you have manifested something in your life. Let's say you've quantum jumped before, okay? And this is when, yeah, you've jumped into a whole different new timeline, and something where people would literally turn heads at an opportunity like this. Like, you have been able to manifest something that is so out there, so drastically different to your other life, that it would turn heads. It's that big of a shift, right? And some of us have experienced that. We have walked different lifelines, okay? So say that's all great and you managed to hop onto a different timeline. So you got into there, but maybe you felt a little bit of imposter syndrome because it was all very new. And as we know, the subconscious mind only likes the familiar. Anything that is unknown is not important. It's not that it's not important, but it's not favorable. The subconscious mind wants to have control, and it wants the familiar, and it wants to keep you in the know. So what might have happened is you dropped into a completely new timeline, you manifested something incredible, and you might have even shocked yourself. It was I wonder if any of you have seen that series on, I don't even know if it's on Netflix anymore, or it was on Amazon, but of Outlander. Shout out if you have, to my Outlander crew, Jamie Fraser. But the concept is they a couple end up, well, Claire actually, an individual, she ends up falling through time back to 100 years for prior, as she touches these stones in Scotland. And oh, I love the series, but it's kind of like that. Like, you hit a point in your life where it's almost like your life takes you a completely different route. Like, it's something that you couldn't have even made up even if you wanted to. The trajectory of your life completely shifted, and all of a sudden you've dropped into this thinking, how did I even manage this? It's purely magic, right? It feels magical. So maybe you're kind of dealing with a little bit of imposter syndrome, but you've got it handled, right? You're like, I'm not letting this opportunity go. I've got it. And it might be that you are in this reality for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, even years, right? Actually, probably not years, at the rare exception, because I think at that point it would have been congruent at this point, to the point you wouldn't have been able to last a few years in something and then have to go back. But say it's a few weeks, a few months, and then you've kind of been training your subconscious mind to believe in this, because I mean, your proof, what's great is your proof is there. Like, you've already dropped into this, which means on some level you feel like you're worthy, but underneath it there might be other narratives at play. Now, what's interesting, and I know this has been the case for me on my personal journey, is through quantum jumping and manifesting something so out of this world from my perspective at that time. But what sabotaged me, or where the self-sabotage came in, it could have come in the forms of thought patterns, mainly all of them aren't my energy, but actually, interestingly, it was the nervous system. So I found on a deep level, I was experiencing fawn responses. I was also experiencing freeze, and I felt not in my power. So in hindsight, I think the best thing was that I did come out of that experience. But what was interesting is I so badly wanted to anchor it in, but I ended up coming completely out of it and self-sabotaging myself, because it did not feel safe in my body. I found, I'm thinking of a particular experience, I found it so overwhelming that I couldn't hold on to it. It felt almost too good to be true, I perceived it as too big for me, and it just became something that I almost wanted to bring myself back into playing small, being safe, because then I didn't feel vulnerable. So this is the reason I'm bringing this up, is because in this journey together, and please tell me, by the way, if you've experienced bringing something in but you've ended up second guessing yourself, doubting yourself, or self-sabotaging yourself to bring you back into old patterns, back into the old paradigm. The old paradigm had its hooks in you, and you ended up falling back or falling into a different reality that was more in the resonance of trying to play small. If this has happened to you, I hear you, I get it. It's incredibly frustrating, but this is how it is. And the reason I'm actually doing this process is why I'm walking this journey with you is I think everyone should have access to this information, knowing that yes, you have to work on your subconscious belief systems. Yes, you have to work on your mind, your body, how you feel, your energy levels, your physical vitality, your spiritual health, your emotional health, your mental health, physical health. But you have to also make sure that your nervous system has the capacity to hold more, to expand more. If your nervous system is not able to hold your new identity archetype, you will not be able to hold on to this new reality. You might be able to manifest it, but it won't be sustainable. So in order for this to work over the next 90 days, what we need to do is we need to get really good at embodying this new identity and working through all of the 3 levels that I've put in this graph, which is energy, subconscious mind, and nervous system. And we need to get really good at learning to regulate the body with this new identity. So it might be that, actually, I think on one of these sessions together, I'm going to run through some really cool, really effective, they are cool, but I wouldn't say like they're cool. I'm going to run through some really effective exercises that is going to help us essentially anchor us into safety, anchor us into full embodiment, anchor us into ventral through our nervous system, through the experience. And so what I'm going to, actually I might do it in the next video, but we'll see, who knows. I'm going to run through some top-down processing or approaches and techniques that we can use with bottom-up techniques. If you don't know what I mean, it's absolutely fine. We're going to run through this together. But this is core, and this is key knowledge to know, and not just know, you want to implicitly know this. You want to learn this. You want this to be it wants to be like second nature for you, to be able to to practice bottom-up techniques and top-down processing techniques. It wants to be like, because once you get this down and you can ingrain it into your everyday experience and living experience, you will master regulating your nervous system. And when you master regulating your nervous system, there is nothing that life or you or anyone can throw at you that you won't be able to move through. So this is the key that I feel like this is something that a lot of people forget to say, is you can quantum jump timelines. Of course you can. But what they don't include, this is why I've split it into 3, is you can master the energy, you can master the subconscious, but if you have missed any of these, and in this case the nervous system, if you don't feel safe receiving or safe expanding or safe growing as a new identity, it will not be sustainable. You will go back into your old paradigm, into your old way of being, because you feel, it's almost like there's that illusion of separation, right? You feel separate to the identity still because it just doesn't feel safe. But this is what we're going to try and do together, is building in the micro habits and the micro processes that allow that identity to be anchored in and embodied through the system. So with that being said, I think I'm just going to wrap up this video. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments. And like I said, I think in one of these videos, I do want to, the whole point in me doing these videos is I'm trying to do it in a spontaneous way. I'm trying to just allow something to come through. But I actually am thinking that I might just, in the next session, run through some bottom up and top down exercises and why it's important to do both of them together, especially with an emphasis on bottom up techniques. If you are someone who has had a tendency to be pulled into survival responses, whether you're someone that your baseline state is anxious, agitated, frustrated, you drop into hypervigilance, into excessive overthinking, anything like that, or it might be the case that you sometimes dissociate your default responses. You shut down, you dissociate, you let go, you numb yourself out, which is a survival response, by the way. Learning bottom up techniques is, when I say it's crucial, it is imperative, because this is coupled with top down, but unless you have the bottom up, you're not going to change your ways. You need to shift first your baseline state. And the reason why the bottom up techniques is so important is because the bottom up techniques is essentially speaking the language of your survival brain and your body, which is where all of our unprocessed emotional traumas are, emotional imprints, any narratives that we've been holding for months, years even. This is a way to free them, is through utilizing bottom-up techniques every day. And we're going to go through some of them in the next video. I've just decided we're doing it. I'm taking charge as the leadership, as the sovereign leader, and I've decided, yes, we're going to go for it. And I'm really excited about this because one thing I'm going to leave us with is you can hack your nervous system and your body with breath work. I highly suggest that because it's one of the fastest ways to hack into your system and to bring you back into a state of calm. Breath work, movement, rhythmic movement, it almost mimics what, there's a science behind this, and maybe I'll go into that, but it mimics the movement that happened when you were in the womb of your mother. So this, if we do rhythmic rocks and movement, you're actually sending signals to your brain and your body that you're being soothed, and it's sending that regulation there. But essentially bottom up is all around speaking to the body first. It's somatic, okay? It's not just about working with the conscious mind, because as we know, if you've been following along, and in a previous video we spoke about the three brains. I'll just do it really quickly. The first brain being the instinctual reptilian brain, which is our survival brain, okay? Then we have the second brain, which is our emotional brain, the limbic system, that has the amygdala in it. And then we have the third brain, which is our neocortex. It's our rational brain, our thinking, consciously thinking brain. It's the ego. It's our seat of self, of consciousness, of who. It's how we discern, how we identify with. But as we know, with fast track processing, which is amygdala hijacking, there are processes that are essentially there to make things more efficient, in terms of just, our amygdala tries to match our experiences with previous experiences when it's collected all of these emotional memories. So it's all about fast, efficient processing. But as we know, this is my thing, with bottom-up techniques, with top-down processing, sorry, we know that the third brain is the conscious part. It's our most, it's our newest evolved part of our brain. And it's all to do with everything that I just said. If we have a baseline state of someone who gets recruited into survival response, and that has become a baseline state for us, using only top-down processing is important, but if you only use that, then you're only speaking the language of the third brain, and you're not going deep down into the second brain and into the third brain. By the way, before I forget, I'm going to actually, this is another video pending, smell, our ability to smell, olfactory, smell. There's something different about smelling in comparison to all of our other 5 senses that actually fast tracks to our emotional brain, the second brain. And that's why when we smell something, it can be nostalgic, it brings us back somewhere. But I'll go into that in another video. But essentially, top-down processing, it only works with our third brain, but bottom-up techniques, it will work directly with our first brain, which is the reptilian, our complex, the cerebellum, and also our second brain, which is our emotional brain, the limbic system. And it also works with the third brain. And can you see why it's important to do it all together? Because you can't think your way out of a survival response. You just can't. So if you don't feel safe in your body, literally in your physical body, no amount of positive thinking is going to change that. Straight up, like, I don't care what anyone says, you cannot think your way out of a survival pattern. You just can't. But you can use some amazing top-down practices, whether it's coaching, CBT, in conjunction with bottom-up techniques, which is somatic based therapies. It's sensory. I'm an advocate for sensory practices, so using the 5 senses in order to anchor, and also things like breath work and sound, anything that taps into the deepest, most primitive parts of our brain and our body is the bottom up. So yeah. Okay, I'm glad I got that out. That clearly wanted to come out for whatever reason. I really hope this helps. Let me know if this is making sense, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.